Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Friday edition of Tailgate Talk. We're your hosts, David and Nick. Nick, you know what to do.
Howdy.
And we're joined again by Lorraine, it looks like this time, per the Zoom name. Mr. Joe, go ahead and say hi to the people.
What's up? What's up?
All right, so you guys know the deal. We're going to go ahead and make some bad picks, and hopefully you don't put any money on it, but
Well, that
we'll
doesn't
do our best.
that
That
doesn't
really
make
just
all
applies
three
to
of
you.
us.
No.
Hey, I had a good week last week. I'm happy with it. I gained on Nick, a game on Nick, so now I'm only 2 behind. We're right in this. We're right in this. So a couple of big spreads, couple of close ones this week. We're hitting the final 2 weeks of the college football regular season, best regular season in all of sports, in my opinion. All right, so first up, we've got Illinois coming off of two tough losses. They're going to the big house to play Michigan, who just played Nebraska. So, Nebraska curse has had an effect for Michigan this week. 18-point spread in favor of the blue, the Wolverines. Nick, who you got?
I mean, earlier when Illinois was first getting ranked, I said that they were the most overrated team in the country, along with Penn State. I think they've been proving me right. So give me Michigan. I think they're going to cover. I think Illinois sucks. I think Michigan's going to blow them out. All right, Lorraine.
Joe.
Yeah,
Come
I'll
on,
take
Lorraine.
Michigan. I'll take Michigan too. Michigan not going to lose at home. They're on a collision course with Ohio State. Illinois was really good, and I think they still are a good team, but they've kind of gotten on a rough patch as of late. So I think Michigan wins and covers in the Illinois will cover in the big house though. Michigan wins, Illinois to cover.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think Michigan wins. I think Illinois covers, though. That's going to be the extent of the Nebraska curse for Michigan this week, I think. Illinois has got a really good running back. They pound the rock, keep the possessions to a minimum for Michigan. I think that they can keep the game within arm's reach, but I think Michigan's going to be too much in the end. Georgia going on the road to Kentucky. Kentucky was a top 10 team at one point. Now, not so much. Right now at home, they are 22.5-point dogs to the Dogs. So, Nick, who you got?
Again, kind of rinse repeat with my analysis of Kentucky when it comes to Illinois. I think that, they're a good team, but they've kind of shown more who they are these past couple of weeks. So give me Georgia covering. I think that the Dogs are the best team in the country right now, and I think that they're going to kind of flex a little bit and run and in their preparation for LSU in the SEC championship game because they got Kentucky and Georgia Tech left. So give me the Dogs covering.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Give me Georgia to win, but give me Kentucky to cover. Will Levis is a terrible quarterback. He is not an NFL quarterback. He should not be going to in the first round, but I'm sure some of these GMs are going to pick him next year because he's 6'3" and has a rocket arm when there's not a defense out there. But the thing that makes me believe in Kentucky to cover is simply just the fact that they're playing in Lexington. Again, I don't think they'll beat Georgia. Georgia's cream of the crop. They're top of the line, but give me Georgia to win, Kentucky to cover because they're in Lexington. I think that place is going to show out. So
Big spread, 22.5 points. It's I don't really like picking against the spread in these games. Typically, I always feel like that at some point there comes a point where you call the Dogs off or something like that. I think though that Georgia's on a mission to just keep cementing their role as the number one team going into the playoff. So I think they win. I think they cover. I don't think it's going to be covering by much, but I think that they're going to get above that 22.5-point spread. So I'm picking the Dogs in this case. Now we've got the Pac-12's final hope for the playoff in USC going on the road. UCLA, they're sold out. 70,000 and a 90,000 seat stadium, but they've got those what are they, like blankets or something they put it up to cover some of the sections to help make it sold out. But USC going into UCLA, 2.5 point favorites. Really, they probably need to win out in order for the Pac-12 to make a case for a team in the playoff this year. So Nick, who you got?
The Battle of Los Angeles could go either way, but purely because I know that the Pac-12 will forever cannibalize itself, give me UCLA on this one. I think that USC's kind of been skating by. They haven't really played anybody of note other than Utah, and they lost that game. I think they did play Washington. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they did. Either way, I think this is the best team that they played all year, and I think that they've kind of been propped up by an impressive loss. So you know what? Give them another one because the Pac-12 loves to knock itself out of the playoff. Give me UCLA.
Yeah, same thing for me. It simply just comes down to the fact that the Pac-12 can't help themselves. They will never help themselves. Last week, in fact, I told you guys either on or off the air that I thought Oregon could go run the table and Bo Nix could be top 3 in the Heisman, and they let me down. So I will tend to go with the underdog here, and they're going to kill the Pac-12's last hope of getting into that playoff. RIP USC this weekend.
There are 3 things that you can always count on in life: death, taxes, and the Pac-12 ruining its chances for the playoffs. Give me UCLA this week.
Ooh.
Kansas State, West Virginia. Kansas State, they're right now the second place team in the Big 12. You've got TCU probably hoping for them to win out in order to stay highly ranked for that matchup to help cement their claim for the playoff. They're going into Morgantown, West Virginia, as 7.5 point favorites. So Nick, who you got here?
I just think this comes down to Kansas State's a better team. So give me Kansas State. I think it'll be a close one, but I just think that Kansas State, their offense is just too much for West Virginia's defense. So give me the Wildcats.
Yeah, give me the Wildcats too. Go Wildcats here. It's pretty simple. They're the second best team in the Big 12. They're a competent team with a competent coaching staff. I don't believe that to be the same with West Virginia. I think Neil Brown gets fired this week after he loses. I think they've been waiting for a reason all year long. And last week he got Oklahoma and kind of came up with a fluke. I believe that was last week. Time's passing me by, as you guys know from today. But I believe that was last week they beat Oklahoma. So he got off the hot seat for a quick second, but he's right back on there. And I think if he loses this week, stick a fork in West Virginia. They'll be back next year with another transfer quarterback that used to be great. So give me Kansas State, and give me Kansas State to cover too. Kansas State by 1 million here.
You guys are forgetting one simple thing. Country roads, man. Take me home. I'm going with West Virginia. I've got no real reason why, other than I just want to see some more chaos this week. So I'm gonna roll with the West Virginia Mountaineers. So let's go home to the country roads, guys. West Virginia all day long.
You're the Heath Ledger of this podcast.
That's me. I'm just wanting the world to burn right now. I'm all for
I think
it.
you're wanting to catch up because you realize that you're running out of time, and I got a good lead on you. So
2 games, buddy. 2 games. Georgia Tech
right.
going to UNC, 21-point dogs. UNC looking to finish out their season on a high note. They've already clinched the ACC championship berth for the Coastal, last time ever for divisions. You've got Drake May having a Heisman caliber season. Really, you look at the stats, he should be running away with it, but because he wears powder blue and has a loss to Notre Dame, they're not talking about him. So Nick, who you got in this game?
Yeah, give me North Carolina to win, but I think Georgia Tech keeps it within 21. Like you said, Drake May's had a great year. Heisman, he should be in the Heisman conversation. I just don't trust the Carolina defense enough to really get them a 21-point win against a Georgia Tech team that honestly has defied all the limitations that have been brought upon them this year, and they've exceeded expectations. So I think Georgia Tech comes out and comes in and fights, but I do think that UNC wins this game. I could see them winning by 17. So give me the Tar Heels, but Georgia Tech covers.
Yeah, give me UNC and give me UNC in the points, please. Drake May is just a stud. Next year, I think they're really gonna have a potent offense and one that's gonna get Drake May into the top 3 in Heisman voting if he continues what he's doing this year. Georgia Tech is not a great team, even though they've defied some of the odds this year after they fired their head coach. They're not a great program. UNC is just in a better place right now. So that's why I'll take the points. They're just in a much, much better place. They have much, much more organization on the offensive side. And I think that carries them to a 21 plus point victory over the Georgia Tech Stingers or whatever they're called.
Yellow
Yellow
Jackets.
Jackets. Thank you.
Stingers.
Fingers. I remember that one.
I couldn't think of the mascot. I had it in my head. I saw the little bee in my head, and I couldn't think of what it was called.
I mean,
The
Clemson
Wolves.
fans don't really like Georgia Tech, so I'm going to call them the Stingers now. Just that works.
Yeah. I agree with you, Nick. Georgia Tech, I think, is going to cover. Not so much because Georgia Tech can do it, more so because UNC has proven time and time again this year that they don't want to put teams away. Similar to Clemson, I think. The defense is still giving up points. That the offense, I think, they'll put up points too, but always seem to be finding themselves in a position where Drake May's got to make a massive play at the end of the game to win it. So I'm picking UNC, but Georgia Tech to cover. All right, next up, Big 12 football back again. TCU going on the road to Baylor. 2.5-point favorites are the Horned Frogs. They're Big 12's one real chance at the playoff in how many years? It's hard to remember. Well, only a couple, I think, because of Oklahoma. But TCU trying to keep themselves in a good spot because it seems like everyone wants them to knock out the second that they look suspect against anybody. So, Nick, who you got here?
This one's a little interesting because TCU is only a 2.5-point favorite on a 6-win Baylor team. A lot of people are picking the Bears to kind of play a little. They could play as an upset team this week, but I just think that TCU has too much offensive firepower. They got limited at Texas last week, but their defense kind of showed that they're good too. So give me TCU. I think they win. I think it'll be close, but I think they're going to win. Yeah, I think that they're not. If they lose a game this year, I don't think it'll be to Baylor, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna ride with TCU here. I know everyone's been expecting, every national sports media coverage has been saying, "Oh, if TCU is going to lose, it's going to be against Baylor." Baylor's the agent of chaos in the Big 12. I don't buy it. I will ride with TCU until they prove me wrong. And I think that TCU is the team of, the new blood of college football that gets in this year, like Cincinnati and like Washington earlier in the playoffs and like those teams that we don't usually see. I think they kind of have their destiny in that 4 spot. I think they get beat when they get in there, but we can get to that when it comes down to it. But yeah, I think they are destined for that 4 spot. I'll take TCU here. And I will obviously take TCU to cover as well.
Yep. So I'm rooting for 2 things going down for the rest of the season. I want absolute chaos as much as possible. I want it to be hard on the committee to pick who gets in and what. But I'm also rooting for TCU to get in. So I want them to win. I'm rooting for them. Because I think that it's just good for college football to have new blood in that's deserving. And TCU getting such flack the whole season when you've got other teams like Michigan who have played no one out of conference. When you've got other teams that, you know, don't have a shot of winning their conference title anymore and still getting a higher percentage chance to make the playoff, then I feel like TCU needs to just keep winning to put that stuff to rest, because that don't sit right with me. If you don't have a shot to win your playoff, your championship for your conference, I think that should have some kind of penalty on how you're seen in the playoff rankings. So
And
I'm
one
going with
last thing,
TCU here.
one last thing to add here, David. It's like this TCU team is easy to root for all three of us because they had a quarterback who in the beginning of the year wasn't sure he could play football because of a heart problem that he had, a heart murmur or whatever. Then he comes on and he's basically like the third stringer on the team. And then all of a sudden two guys get hurt and he goes in and he plays his little ass off. And at the end of the day, they're just an easy team to root for. They're all a bunch of guys, right? Like he's the kind of guy you want to have a beer with at the end of the day, and you want to see at the bar. You know what I mean? So they're an easy team to root for, and I think that's why all three of us. I mean, I could be very wrong, but I think that's another reason why all three of us, and I think most of the country wants to see them in that 4 spot and see if they can create a little magic for the first time in the college football playoff and a system that's designed for blue bloods of college football. So.
Agreed. Next up, we've got Nick's Utah Utes going up against the Oregon Ducks. Oregon coming off of a tough loss last week, which kind of ruined their chances in the playoff. They had been looking so good, rebounding after that Georgia loss, and then Washington went out and really, you know, put fire to their hopes for making the playoff. So Utah now gets to go into Eugene, Oregon as 2-point favorites. The disrespect for the Ducks. Nick, what do you think of that?
Disrespect them because Utah is built different. Give me Utah. I can't pick against them. Yeah, I mean, Oregon just lost their season. I think that it's tough to play any opponent after going through that type of loss, but with it being a Utah team that's kind of found itself and just kept on winning, I think Utah comes in and beats them. I think the Utes kind of, I don't know if they can get back into the Pac-12 race, but they can definitely keep screwing with it. So give me the Utes.
Yeah, give me Oregon here. I'm a big fan of the legend of Bo Nix, as some of the sports people say. Listen, Oregon, I was hoping last week that they would put the committee in an uncomfortable position where they had to make a decision on Oregon, and unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. But I'm still going to root for Oregon until the end of the year. They've been a great team this year. I think they have a good head coach who, like all the Oregon coaches, is going to wind up back in the SEC again on some crappy team. But until then, give me the Ducks. Quack, quack, quack all the way until the end of the season, even though they're out of the playoffs. Bo Nix, I think, might go off against this team. It really comes down to Bo Nix is basically the epitome and summary of my pick here.
Any team that Nick picks for a Utah game, I go against. It's just principle at this point. It served me well. I need to get back into this race. So I'm going to go with the Ducks just because Nick you're 1-2 right now. So I'm going with the odds. I'm going against Nick's Utah pick. I'll go with the Ducks. Ohio State, Maryland.
Hold on. You don't get away with
We're
that.
moving on.
You can't say it treats you well when you literally we watched the USC game together. Okay, whatever. Yeah,
I think
fine.
it did. It treated me well 2 times before that. I'm gonna keep rolling dice.
Nick, speak your truth.
Yeah, I mean he's trying to claim that he's some all higher being, knowing that whenever I pick Utah, go fade me. You were riding that USC pick and it didn't work out, so I want to hear it. Anyway, this game, Ohio State's gonna kill Maryland. Put my graphic up. Ohio State covers. 5 touchdowns. Maryland sucks. They've been bad. Ohio State's kind of starting to get into tune. Ohio State wins in a landslide.
Yeah, give me Ohio State here. Maryland just doesn't have the firepower. They have 2 great wideouts. They have a good quarterback, and I think they have a good passing offense, but they're no match for Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Hartline when he decides to suit up, Julian Fleming, the other monster that they have who wears number 2. They just have a production of offensive weapons at their plethora. Ohio State by 1 million here. It's not even going to be close. They're going to cover by 7 touchdowns and they're going to cover easy. And we're all going to turn around next week and be like, oh my gosh, or Ohio State looks so good until they lose to Michigan. So
Wait, did you say Brian Hartline was a player? Because I think he's their coach.
yeah, he went to Ohio State and he's their wide receiver coach now. That's how they
Okay.
have all those 5-star wide receivers
Okay.
because apparently he's practicing with them and he's playing. He teaches them all the right stuff. So when he decides he's going to suit up, he might suit up for this game. Who knows? It's only Maryland. I don't think anyone would notice.
Okay, I see what you're saying now. I was really confused for a sec. Okay.
I think I struck a nerve with Nick in Utah. I'm gonna
not
put
Are you going to
Utah.
pick Maryland
I'm
here?
gonna have to pick a Utah game from now on.
Are you going to
I'm
pick the
going back-
Terps
I'm
here?
No, I'm not picking the Terps. I'm picking
Oh,
Ohio State to cover big time. I'm just pointing out that Nick seemed to be as pissed off as I've ever seen him with my analysis on why I picked Oregon. So
It's
I'm
nothing
putting a
to,
Utah game for us to pick every week now, Nick, forever.
it's nothing with the fact that it's Utah. It's just the fact that you had the audacity to say, "Oh, it's treated me very well." When one of the games you're back is because Utah beat
go against
USC.
you in a
I don't
Utah
want to hear
game.
it.
That's
I don't want to hear
good.
it.
That's
I don't want to hear
good.
it. I don't want to hear it. One of the reasons I'm ahead is because Utah
66%
beat
puts you in the Hall
USC.
of Fame in baseball, Nikki.
Fact or fiction? Fact or fiction? You're behind because
All right.
USC lost to
Well,
Utah.
we'll move
Fact or
on
fiction?
because Nick's upset about it. So
Yeah, whatever.
Notre Dame, BC with a massive win against NC State last week out of nowhere. Made all of us cry, I'm sure, for the Wolfpack. I think Nick and I texted our uncles afterwards to let them know our thoughts. Notre Dame is 21-point favorites at home. Nick, who you got?
Yeah, good for you, Boston College. Now you get to go get smacked by Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame covers. Not going to be close. That's my analysis. I think that Boston College is still a terrible team. They caught a weekend NC State. I don't know what happened, but give me the Irish covering.
Yeah, go Irish. This comes down to that. Like I've said previous weeks, you got to have. I don't know if you guys saw. I didn't see the quote, but I heard it. It was something along the lines of if NC State, somebody on NC State was like, if we prepared better and we didn't overlook Boston College, that we would have won that game. Marcus Freeman isn't going to let anybody overlook this game. He's riding hot right now. I think their stable running backs might run for 1,000 yards this game. BC might get knocked down to the FCS next year if they win how I think they're gonna win against BC. So go Irish. I'll take Irish by 1 million here.
Boston College has been painfully thin on the offensive line the whole season. I think with Notre Dame's defense, the dudes they've got on that defensive front, they're going to have their way. I think that they're going to win in a landslide against Boston College. I think they cover. All right. We've got a 3:30 matchup on ABC, I believe, between the Clemson Tigers, the Miami Hurricanes. We've got Miami coming in with, I guess, some issues where I guess some parents are trying to pull their kids out now, and Cristobal saying, go ahead and pick them up if you don't like their playing time. I mean, Miami's been having a year of ups and downs and all sorts. Clemson eking out some close wins, one embarrassing loss to Notre Dame. They come in 19-point favorites at home, sporting that 39-game home win streak. So, Nick, who you got in this game?
Give me Clemson, but I think I'm hesitant to pick the over or the spread. I can see it going both ways where Clemson recently hasn't been blowing people out, but Miami has looked horrible. So, I just reminded myself, Miami sucks. Give me Clemson in the points. Miami scored 12 points in 4 overtime, like not in 4 overtimes, in a game including 4 overtimes. I think, and that was against Virginia. I think Clemson's defense is vastly better than Virginia's. I don't think that they're going to get anything going on offense. So all Clemson has to do to cover is 3 touchdowns. So I think they can do that. Give me Clemson and covering.
Yeah, give me Clemson here. Miami's in that Power 5 of teams that have really, really been disappointing. They're not BC. They're not going to the FCS anytime soon. I think their future is still bright, but this year they just are like Texas A&M. They can't do just about anything right on either side of the ball. Clemson and the points, please. Here, I don't care if DJU throws 5 interceptions. I still don't think that Cristobal and that offense can do just about anything. So Clemson to cover with the points, and I don't care how bad DJU plays or how bad of a situation they put Cade in. Clemson in the points.
Yeah, Clemson's winning this game. Barrett Carter's going to be hurdling over offensive linemen all day long. I think Clemson again needs to feed Will Shipley and Phil Maffa early and often. They need to get DJ involved in the running game from the get-go. That needs to be the game plan. Is you are a running football team. Run the damn ball.
I think this is going to be the I think this is going to be the Will Shipley game, ladies and gentlemen. I'm putting that out there right now. I think Will Shipley has a career game here. Think so. Sorry to interrupt.
I can definitely see that happening. I think, I was looking at some breakdown of Clemson's last game against Louisville. First half, TJ's passing chart using the middle of the field, using within 5, within 10, and then up to 20. Like ball was being put to stress the defense. Second half was story of the Notre Dame game. It was sidelines at the line of scrimmage or just in front or behind. And that was it. So I think Clemson needs to play like the first half against Louisville. They need to run the ball. They need to be aggressive. They need to, show the eye of the tiger type thing. They need to go in and say, we're bigger, we're better than you, and take it to Miami. And if they do that, they cover easily. And if they don't, then it's going to be another Clemson game where you have a little bit of head scratching afterwards. So I'm calling on the Tigers to come out angry, hungry from the get-go and just assert your will over Miami and keep that win streak going. We need to beat Nebraska's win streak of 45, and it starts on Saturday. You can only win 1 game a week, so win that next game, the next home game, and let's get ourselves focused for Turkey Day and South Carolina afterwards.
Just a reminder, this Miami team lost to Texas A&M. So.
Yeah, which is mad embarrassing because anybody who loses to Texas A&M should be just put out of their misery.
Almost as embarrassing as having your name be Lorraine on a Zoom call.
Yikes! Well, I said it before the podcast, and I'll say it for the people who watch and listen here. I plan on using a different piece of technology every week as long as I'm on this podcast. So I don't care if I have to take a trip to Best Buy in 3 weeks and buy an iPad. I will be doing my very, very darndest to do so. I think it's just my bit now, and I think I'm using Emily's Nana's computer. So we'll see what happens next week. I think it might be on my my MacBook if all things turn out correctly.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Well, I think that's all we've got for this week. Thank you all for joining in. As always, go Tigers.
Go Irish.
Hey, let's go Jets with the big game against the Patriots this week.
Oh, here we go.
And go Tigers.
All right.